When it comes to depriving yourself of sleep, a boatload of problems can arise if you continue to stay up without sleeping. But the burning question remains, can sleep deprivation actually be fatal? Let's dive into the consequences of extended periods without sleep and explore the stories of two men who, against their better judgment, chose to defy their biological needs and push the limits of human endurance. In the year 1959, Peter Tripp, a New York City DJ, embarked on an ambitious sleepless journey lasting 200 hours. His aim was to raise funds for the March of Dimes, a US-based NGO dedicated to combating birth defects and infant mortality. Despite the initial attempts of two concerned psychologists to dissuade him, Tripp was insistent on his decision. Initially, he appeared cheerful, alert, and enthusiastic about his daring feat. However, as the days wore on, his smile quickly gave way, which eventually transformed into extreme exhaustion and a somewhat deranged appearance. The New York Times reported that while Tripp managed to maintain composure during his on-air broadcasts, off the air, he experienced vivid hallucinations. He saw mice and kittens scurrying around the studio, believed spiders filled his shoes, witnessed fire spewing from his desk, and even mistook a man-in-the-dark overcoat for an undertaker sent to embalm him, causing him to flee in fear onto the streets. You can't blame him for this kind of reaction. Throughout his sleepless ordeal, Tripp received stimulants, leading many to speculate that these substances were responsible for his mental deterioration. However, it's worth noting that others who had surpassed the 4-day mark without sleep also reported similar experiences. Tripp managed to stay awake for a staggering 201 hours, or just over 8 days. Not surprising, in hindsight, that he encountered numerous issues. This really highlights the importance of sleep. It is worth mentioning that most human studies on sleep deprivation have not extended beyond 3 days due to ethical reasons. Also, much of our knowledge on this topic comes from animal studies. A study conducted by University of Chicago researcher Alan Rechtschaffen deprived rats of sleep for 32 days, resulting in the death of all the rodents. The reason why they died, however, remains debatable. Some attribute it to bacterial infection resulting from compromised immune function, while others suggest hypothermia or increased stress levels that led to brain damage. While it is technically possible to die from sleep deprivation, it is more likely to be a secondary illness triggered or enhanced by that lack of sleep. Also, people experiencing sleep deprivation may encounter the so-called hat phenomenon. This phenomenon entails hallucinating the sensation of wearing an excessively heavy hat. However, it's important to clarify that this experience is distinct from the typical feeling of wearing a hat. To further illustrate the consequences of prolonged wakefulness, let's consider Randy Gardner, the current Guinness World Record holder for the longest period without sleep, achieved in 1963 through 1964. Gardner, together with his friends Bruce McAllister and Joe Marciano, devised a plan to stay awake with him on 12-hour shifts, making sure that he'll stay awake. On the second day, he experienced unfocused eyesight and difficulty recognizing objects by touch. By the fourth day, the hallucinations had set in, including mistaking street signs for people walking towards him. He developed delusions, believing he was a famous African-American football player, and observed long forest paths extending from the rooms he stood in. If this happened today, it would cause quite an outrage. On day 9, he began slurring his words, experiencing fragmented thoughts and severe memory lapses. Simple tasks became challenging, and he even forgot common household object names. As his sleep deprivation continued, Gardner grew increasingly irritable and displayed signs of a cognitive impairment. By day 11, he appeared zombie-like, without any emotions and lacking attention span. When asked to perform a simple serial sevens test, counting down from 100 by increments of 7, he stopped at 65, unable to recall why he had stopped counting. Then, Gardner was taken to a naval hospital, where he slept uninterrupted for a much-needed 14 hours. Surprisingly, upon waking, he felt groggy, but not more so than an average person. He did not require any additional sleep to feel rested, and reported feeling completely fine. Nonetheless, Gardner experienced insomnia for years after his sleep deprivation feat, while Peter Tripp, the New York City DJ from our previous story, described enduring emotional instability and recurring headaches. Remember, it is essential to ensure that you obtain a healthy amount of sleep suitable for your age group. By doing so, you can rest assured that your body and mind receive the necessary rest to keep you alert and curious. We hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, sleep well.